Yeah, good morning everyone. Thanks for getting up early, even though I can't promise fun. But I want to discuss the risk of the AMOC passing a tipping point, which puts it on a way to shutdown. This is a diagram that was just published by the State of the Climate report by Copernicus, and it does feature that cold blob in the North Atlantic as a temperature change, air temperature change trend over the last 30 years, which is not very far from Britain or Iceland already. And we of course know that it's not only a trend for the last 30 years, but rather we have seen this in the last IPCC reports, actually already in the third one, but they just didn't have such a nice diagram. But here AR4, AR5, AR6, you can clearly see it as a trend since the beginning of the 20th century, and it's the only part of the planet that has cooled since then, whilst the whole rest of the planet has warmed. And that is something that climate models have, of course, predicted, and in the models we know it's a response to a slowing of the AMOC. Now that's air temperature. If we look at sea surface temperature, that's on the right-hand side, you see the satellite trend again over the last 30 years. And you see that cold blob here, but that's not the only thing you see here. You see the strong warming along the American coast, which clearly, if you look at the cooling further south, it's a northward shift of the Gulf Stream, which has already been known since quite a while ago. A good paper by Rong Zhang from 2008. As a response to an AMOC slowdown, and it has to do with vorticity conservation at the point where the North Atlantic deep water crosses underneath the Gulf Stream. And so when the North Atlantic deep water slows, it means the Gulf Stream shifts north. And you see that also in a model simulation by René, here published last year with a strongly adding ocean model. This is without global warming, so there's no warming background on the left-hand side. Only on the right-hand picture we have it with global warming. But if you just look at purely the AMOC shutdown signal in sea surface temperature, it has its fingerprint with the cold blob and the Gulf Stream shift. And René actually has a new paper on this as well, that the data do show this northward shift of the Gulf Stream as further evidence of an AMOC slowing. And we also see evidence of that in the paleoclimatic proxy data, which there is several reconstructions of AMOC based on sediment data, which show that it's been pretty stable for more than 1,000 years until it started this decline that has been going on over the last 100 years or so. But the main question of my talk is, does this mean we are approaching a tipping point, and what is actually the risk of crossing a tipping point for an AMOC shutdown? And that is a risk that has long been discussed. I've been working on this for 35 years by now, and during most of that time it has been discussed as a low probability but high impact risk, which I have been on record saying maybe 5% chance of that happening, but that is far too high for a risk of this kind of devastating impact. Nobody would board a plane with 5% chance of crashing. So I have always considered this a very serious risk, but low probability, high impact. An example of that is a paper we published 10 years ago where we put a burning embers diagram here for various tipping point risks, and this THC is the thermohaline circulation risk, because actually it's the thermohaline circulation which has a tipping point. The AMOC is a mix of thermohaline and wind-driven parts, and when the thermohaline circulation shuts down, there is a shallow, weak, wind-driven overturning left, which has very little climate impact, but strictly the tipping point is in the thermohaline circulation. And so back then we thought, well, the risk kind of starts at about 3.5 degrees of global warming. Now what I'm trying to tell you today is this has very seriously changed this risk assessment. If we look at what the IPCC has summarized in its last report, we can see there in the model mean there is a weakening of about 5 Sverdrup So if today's AMOC is 17 Sverdrup, that would be from 17 to 12, but not all models have a 17 Sverdrup. Historic pre-industrial AMOC, they vary greatly already in the strength there, but the uncertainty in the weakening is also very large, as you can see from this uncertainty range. And I will talk about this uncertainty and how to reduce it in a few minutes. But first I want to point out that these runs all stop in the year 2100 in the IPCC report, but quite a number of those have been continued since then, after 2100, further into the future. And in a paper led by Siebel and Reifhout, we looked at those model runs that did continue beyond 2100. Here is the subset that shows an AMOC shutdown. And we define a shutdown here as less than 6 Sverdrup because of that remaining wind-driven part which doesn't shut down. I first saw these results from Sibran, which he showed at a workshop. I was quite shocked because the fraction of models that are on the way to shutdown, of those that go beyond 2100, is quite high. Actually, there from the 9 model simulations for high emission scenario, all 9 shut down the AMOC after 2100, but also substantial fractions of the intermediate and low emission scenarios do. We found that there is a sharp divide between the models that shut down and that don't. When you look at the strength in 2100, it's practically all of them that are below 10 Sverdrup in 2100 are on the way to shutdown. And when you apply this 10 Sverdrup criterion to all model runs, including those that have not been continued, that's overall about 750 scenario simulations. We concluded that for high emissions there is a 70% chance of the AMOC shutting down, and even for low emissions it's still 25%. So we're already, based on that, not talking about a low probability risk anymore. We also noticed that in some models with the same model with high and low emissions, if both of those runs are on the way to shutdown, they actually also follow exactly the same trajectory almost, which suggests that the forcing doesn't matter. It's actually then obviously self-amplifying feedbacks that dominate that, and so the point of no return, the tipping point, must have happened quite a lot earlier than 2100, and we concluded that this tipping point is reached when the deep convective mixing stops in all the 3 convection areas, Labrador Sea, Erminger Sea and Nordic Seas. And that makes physical sense because then the deep water renewal has stopped, and then of course it takes time to drain all the old deep water that is still sitting there with high densities, so that takes about 50 to 100 years until the AMOC is then fully shut down. But if the deep water is not renewed, it's basically doomed to shut down. Here are 2 model examples. On the left, the MRI model, right, the UK ESM, and the time series down here show the convection depth in the 3 areas, and you see that actually the convection shuts down pretty early in the next few decades, by the middle of this century. And the bottom right here, actually the dashed lines are for low emissions, and the right-hand model, UK ESM, is a model where the AMOC shuts down for high emissions but not for low emissions. So the dashed line, low emissions, convection continues here, and the AMOC does not shut down for low emissions. It does for high emissions where the convection has stopped. The model on the left shuts down the convection and the AMOC for both high and low emission scenarios. Now, I talked about the uncertainty, and there was in my view, very important paper last week by Portman et al., where they used observational constraints to reduce that uncertainty. And they start out with a full kind of CMIP6 model set, which, as I already showed from the IPCC diagram, in average has a 12 Sverdrup by 2100. But there is a huge uncertainty range between 6 and 18 Sverdrup there. And then you can ask the question, which of these models are more reliable, and can we use observational data to constrain that? And this is what this study has done. And when they did that, they found that those models that agree well with the observations actually, on average, reach a much weaker AMOC. It's those models with a steep decline which are the most realistic ones. And so they end up, first of all, with a much smaller uncertainty range, only plus minus 1.4 Sverdrup, and also, unfortunately, I have to say, with a much weaker AMOC in 2100 of only about 8 Sverdrup. What were these observational constraints? They didn't prescribe them a priori. They analyzed what are the actual factors in terms of temperature and salinity all over the Atlantic that determine the AMOC decline. And they found the most important aspect was here, the dark blue one, the salinity in the South Atlantic, which is in line with that determining whether the AMOC exports or imports salt into the Atlantic. That parameter that's often called FOV, the overturning salt transport, which I first identified in a paper in 1996 as determining AMOC stability. And that is found here again. And there is quite a substantial literature showing that models do badly on this and often are just too stable based on this criteria. And that is confirmed again here by Portman et al. That makes total physical sense. And so I think this is a very credible result. And if you split that up in the different emission scenarios, you find something very interesting. For the medium to high scenarios, it's always around 8 Sverdrup by 2100, which doesn't differ much, even though the forcing differs a lot, which suggests these models are past the tipping point, and this is dominated by self-amplifying feedback here, and not by the forcing. And that also agrees with a 10 Sverdrup criterion from our Dreifeld et al. Paper. These are at about 8 Sverdrups, so they would be well past the tipping points by 2100. And only the SSP 126 scenario, which is a Paris-compatible emission scenario, has a substantially stronger AMOC and is probably not past the tipping point. And if you see that the uncertainty, this is a 90% uncertainty range, and so kind of a 90% chance that we are still well below 10 Sverdrup in 2100, which is not a low probability event. It looks like unless we go really for this very rapid emissions reduction, we run a very high chance of crossing the AMOC tipping point and shutting it down. Now, the full shutdown is only reached after 2100. Some people think that is kind of reassuring and we shouldn't worry about this because it's so far in the future, but that totally underestimates that a lot of things are happening on the way to the shutdown, including that there is a risk of the subpolar gyre collapsing. That has been shown in another paper by Didier Swingedau and colleagues from France. These are 4 different models, or rather 3, and the ensemble mean. Let's look at the ensemble mean here. This is a kind of cooling starting in the late 2030s, 2040s, that there is already clearly affecting Great Britain, for example, and fairly abrupt. And so that actually is a big concern, and Svinda will talk about the subpolar gyre after my talk here and the connection to the AMOC. I come to my conclusions. So my summary is the AMOC shutdown is not a low probability event anymore. It starts to look likely, maybe even very likely. The point of no return for this is passed soon in the next few decades unless the emissions are reduced very fast. And I hope that you will maybe help alerting the public and policymakers to this real big change in risk assessment for AMOC shutdown. And even though the shutdown is reached fully after 2100, the AMOC and the subpolar gyre impacts are already going to be felt pretty soon in the next few decades. Thank you very much.